Josiah Trelawny stands as one of the most intriguing characters in Red Dead Redemption 2, a man whose flamboyant personality and dual life set him apart from his fellow outlaws in the VanderLinde gang. Born in Cornwall, England, Trelawny traveled to America at a young age, leaving behind his homeland and immersing himself in a world of deception and crime. Throughout his time in the gang, Trelawny balances a life filled with outlaw exploits alongside a more conventional family life in San Denie. His story is one of cunning, survival, and a careful balance between the worlds of crime and family, adding layers to the dynamics of loyalty, freedom, and self-preservation. Trelawny's roots trace back to Cornwall, a region known for its own history of smugglers and outlaws. However, Trelawny himself admits to having little to no memory of his birthplace, suggesting that he left at a young age or, alternatively, that his nomadic life as a common has severed his connection to any sense of home. This ambiguous past lends an air of mystery to his character and raises questions about what shaped him into the charismatic and slippery figure he becomes. Trelawny's choice to abandon his origins may be his earliest act of reinvention, setting the stage for his later life as a master of disguise and deception. Upon arriving in America, Trelawny quickly became involved in the criminal underworld, honing his skills as a common, illusionist, and master manipulator. His natural charm and quick wit made him highly effective at adopting different personas, befriending people from various social circles, and seamlessly navigating different towns and cities. It is unclear when or how he first met Dutch and the gang, but his particular skill set and adaptability made him an appealing addition. The gang, known for its diverse mix of outcasts and rebels, readily embraced Trelawny, who became something of a part-time member, able to drift in and out as he pleased. Players wondered where Trelawny would go, until later it would become evident through dialogue. Trelawny was sneaking away to see his family. He had a wife and 2 sons, Tarquin and Cornelius, whom he maintains in San Denie. His family life is mentioned only sparingly, adding to the mystery surrounding his character.
I know you saw me in town with my wife.
I never knew you were married.
It's hard, Arthur. I love her, but I can't stand still. Can't do it.
Poor woman.
Oh, she's fine. She knows who she married.
Did she?
No, probably not.
The existence of this family raises questions about how deeply Trelawny was invested in the gang. Unlike Arthur, Dutch, or John Marston, who live on the fringes of society with little hope of a normal life, Trelawny has managed to carve out a space in both worlds, living as both a gang member and a family man. Trelawny's relationship with his family is distant, likely due to the risk and instability his lifestyle entails. His extended absences and risky pursuits likely create a strain on his family life, yet he continues to return to San Denie, perhaps to maintain some semblance of normalcy or to preserve a safe harbor where he can always retreat. His family represents a side of him that the other gang members lack, a semblance of stability and a future separate from the constant threat of violence and the law. This duality suggests that Trelawny may always have viewed his time in the gang as temporary, a means to an end rather than a lifelong commitment. However, dialogue at camp from Trelawny suggests he had a deep drive to live and operate as a criminal, but also had a deep love for his wife. He would talk about how hard it was, suggesting that instead of playing both sides, Trelawny was torn between outlaw and family life. So he would return to his family when he missed them, and return to the gang when he missed the way of life he so desired. But Dutch's approach to leadership was marked by a demand for absolute loyalty, yet he allowed Trelawny a surprising amount of freedom. This leniency may be attributed to Trelawny's unique contributions. Dutch recognizes that Trelawny's skills and connections are invaluable, especially when they align with his grand schemes. Dutch is known for his speeches about loyalty, freedom, and the bonds of family, yet his tolerance for Trelawny's disappearances and double life highlights Dutch's ability to compromise when it benefits him. Unlike most gang members who live under the constant threat of the law and remain close to the gang for protection, Trelawny is a rare exception. His role is not to provide muscle or act as a sharpshooter, but rather to serve as the gang's inside man and strategist. His connections, persuasive skills, and knowledge of the social elite allow him to assist in schemes that require finesse rather than brute force. Dutch's vision for the gang is not just survival, but rather achieving grand scores that will provide wealth and freedom. Trelawny's aptitude for social manipulation and planning aligns well with these goals, making him instrumental in certain key operations. Trelawny first becomes actively involved with the gang in Horseshoe Overlook, where he reveals his importance as an informant. He provides Dutch and the gang with crucial intelligence on Sean Maguire, a gang member captured by bounty hunters. This information enables Arthur to lead a rescue mission. Trelawny's actions here demonstrate his loyalty to the gang and the significant network he maintains despite his frequent absences. In the Clemens Point chapter, he is arrested for illegal gold prospecting, but Arthur helps him avoid jail. Later, he is kidnapped by bounty hunters who recognize him, likely due to his reputation and previous deceptions. This incident marks a rare moment of vulnerability for Trelawny, who is usually adept at avoiding trouble. Arthur and Charles Smith, another gang member, ultimately rescue him, reinforcing the gang's loyalty toward Trelawny despite his partial commitment. One of Trelawny's most significant contributions to the gang occurs during the San Denie chapter, where he arranges a high-stakes poker game heist aboard the Grand Corrigan riverboat. This operation requires strategic planning and access to high society, which Trelawny can easily navigate. He carefully orchestrates the event, using his charm and quick thinking to secure invitations and create opportunities for the gang. And while things do not go entirely as planned, the heist is a prime example of Trelawny's value to the gang. His ability to blend in with the wealthy and elite enables Dutch's gang to access a world they otherwise could not penetrate, aligning with Dutch's vision of achieving one last big score. As the gang's situation deteriorates in the Bigger Hollow chapter, Trelawny becomes increasingly aware that the gang is spiraling toward its inevitable end. With the law closing in and tensions within the gang at an all-time high, he makes the decision to leave permanently. This departure is handled with subtlety, explaining his choice to leave the gang behind. Arthur, though weary and aware of the gang's looming destruction, respects Trelawny's decision, recognizing that his friend's loyalty has been one of practicality rather than deep-seated allegiance. Trelawny's exit marks a significant moment, as he is one of the few members who manages to walk away without falling victim to the chaos that ultimately consumes the gang. Trelawny's life in Red Dead Redemption 2 is a fascinating study of a man who navigates two worlds, managing to remain part of an outlaw gang while retaining connections to a conventional family life. His intelligence, charm, and adaptability allow him to survive in a world where most characters face harsh consequences for their choices. After the events of the game, Trelawny's fate remains a mystery. Known for his unpredictable comings and goings, he simply vanishes from the gang's world, leaving little trace of where he may have gone. However, there are a few theories of where he may have gone. Our first theory is that he decided to leave his criminal past behind and return to his family, fully committing himself to the role of a husband and father. Having lived on the edge of the law for years, Trelawny may have recognized the consequences of his dangerous lifestyle and the toll it was taking on his family in San Denie. In his final departure from the gang, Trelawny likely saw the gang's decline and the increased attention from the Pinkertons as an opportunity to sever ties with the outlaw life for good. This theory suggests Trelawny heads to San Denie, reuniting with his family for good. He could have used his skills similarly to the way he did in the gang, and run sophisticated smaller scams on his own, much like he was in Chapter 3, and eventually establish a comfortable, quiet life that allows him to support his family without reverting to crime. Where he could thrive as a businessman, or perhaps even as a performer, captivating audiences with his skill in illusion and storytelling. The player can travel to San Denie several times throughout the game to hear Trelawny's voice from outside his home.
It was absolutely delicious, my dear. Thank you. Well, I think a toast is in order, don't you? Here, let's fill that water glass, Tarkin. It's unlucky to cheers on an empty glass. Okay. To the Trelawnys. It's good to be home.
The Trelawnys! Are you staying now, Daddy?
I wish I could, my boy. I really do. But business calls. Oh, I almost forgot. I don't suppose anybody here would be interested in, say, present?
Me! Me!
Okay. This is for you.
Wow! Thanks!
And this one's for you, Cornelius.
A spinning top!
I got that in a town called Blackwater. And last but not least, for you, my dear.
Aw, thank you.
Now run along and play, boys. Let your mother and I read the newspapers.
Trelawny, that's you in there.
Arthur? What on earth are you doing here? I can't speak now. Sorry. Can we catch up in the office on Monday? Let's adjourn to the parlor, my dear. Not a moment's peace.
It is more than safe to assume this would have been his first stop after leaving the gang. However, given the heat on the gang at the time, it is unlikely that he and his family would have stayed in San Denie. If the player travels to his home after the epilogue, they will not hear Trelawny inside. Now, our second theory suggests that after leaving the gang, Trelawny's past eventually caught up with him, leading to his capture and imprisonment. Despite his knack for slipping into new identities and blending into society, Trelawny had been involved in too many schemes, scams, and high-profile escapades to completely avoid notice. With bounty hunters and lawmen actively seeking out the remnants of Dutch's gang, it's possible that someone in San Denie or elsewhere recognized Trelawny from a wanted poster or remembered his association with the infamous outlaws. His skills as a conman could only protect him for so long, and perhaps one day his charm wasn't enough to sway the law. And as mentioned before, he had already been recognized once by bounty hunters. This theory envisions Trelawny caught in a sting or arrested unexpectedly, possibly while trying to pull off another swindle, only to be identified and linked to his past with Dutch's gang. Thrown into prison, Trelawny would face the irony of a life behind bars. After years of mastering the art of escape and deception, he would now find himself trapped, likely regretting not leaving the criminal world behind sooner. This ending would reveal that, despite his resourcefulness and cunning, Trelawny was never truly beyond the reach of his past, making him one more casualty of the VanderLinde game's tragic legacy. However, no newspaper articles mention anything about Trelawny's capture, and even when catching up with other players in the epilogue, none of them mention anything about Trelawny. And our last, and probably least possible theory is that Trelawny was a rat, and may have been working against the gang, quietly aiding the Pinkertons or at least feeding information for his own benefit. Several clues support this idea. In Chapter 3, when Trelawny is captured by bounty hunters, Arthur cynically remarks that Trelawny would sell his own sister, hinting at Trelawny's possible disloyalty and slippery nature.
I'm good.
What do you think they want with Trelawny?
Could be any one of 100 things. Just depends if any of them involve us.
You think he'll talk?
Of course he'll talk. He'd sell his own sister to save a train fare. He don't know how not to talk.
Arthur also states that nothing is straightforward where Trelawny is involved, emphasizing his distrust in Trelawny's motives and foreshadowing that Trelawny might not always be honest about his dealings. This lack of trust creates an undertone that Trelawny could be playing both sides to ensure his survival, especially given his known history of walking in and out of gang life without full commitment. As mentioned, he had knowledge of Sean's exact location with the bounty hunters and the location they were moving him to. And when Pinkertons Milton and Ross show up at the camp, Trelawny is the only gang member not present. This evidence, along with the usual absence of Trelawny from the gang, strengthens the theory that he was providing information to the Pinkertons. He could have seen this as a way to guarantee his safety and financial security. He might have moved to new regions under Pinkerton protection, using his knowledge of the criminal underworld to help hunt down other outlaws. Trelawny's survival instinct and penchant for playing both sides make this plausible. He would have ensured a degree of safety while using his skills to stay relevant, even after leaving behind his life with Dutch and the gang. I mean, it is pretty weird a criminal that has already been recognized by a bounty hunter once has a home with a family in San Denie, one of the most bustling and civilized cities in the game. While the theory that Trelawny returned to his family is the most likely, no one can say for sure. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments below. I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks for watching.